Hello everyone and welcome back. So this is where we left off in the last video. So we had built this carousel view for our list of snippets. Now in today's session we are going to implement the search functionality. So let us actually start with that. So here you have got this main grid, and inside this grid we had a cover flow which is in the third row, and we had the bottom menu which is in the fourth row. So what we want to do over here, we want to bring in a search control which we want to put in our first row itself. So let me actually go ahead and let me just create this. So this is going to be our border control. Search control looks good. Now I'm not going to use the default out of the box search bar because I want to provide a very specific functionality and good look and feel which I was not able to achieve with the default search bar out of the box. So I'm going to use the border control to create this layout for me. So let me bring in the properties for this. So in the border control, definitely we are going to put it in row 0. I'm going to give it some padding, some background color, stroke. I don't want to have it any outline border. I'm giving it some margin, and it is of height 40 points, and I'm also giving it a border radius. Just to show you how this looks like when I execute this, we can have a look at it very quickly. So let this load. So this will be our search box over here, and basically the search bar that we will build. So inside this border control, I am going to put in a grid, and for grid I am going to specify some properties. Let me just bring it over here. So it is going to be vertically centered. I'm going to have 3 columns in it. The first column, which is going to have the text entry field, it's going to take up all the space, and then I have 2 columns for my search and the clear search icons, and the column spacing in between I'm putting in as 10 points. So what we want to do in the very first column itself, I'm going to bring in a text entry field. So let me bring in our text entry. So this is our text entry. I'm giving it a name, txt search query, a placeholder search with some ellipses. The default text is empty. The placeholder color is dark text color. It is going into the column 0 using the regular font size is 16, and so on. So this is my text entry. Now other than this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a couple of images as well, basically. So let me go ahead and bring in a couple of images. So the first image is going to be in column 1, which is the second column. It is going to be a search icon. I'm giving it a height and width of 18 pixels or 18 points, and I'm putting in a tab gesture recognizer. Whenever we click on it, we are going to call the search snippet command. Of course, this search snippet command does not exist at the moment, but we will do that later on. And we have the binding, the parameter that will be passing to this search snippet command is actually the text property of this txt search query. So I'm using the path and the x reference source to refer to that. So whatever is typed in this txt search query will be passed in to this search snippet command, which we will implement in our view model. So, and the last one I have is an image icon, which is nothing but a simple clear button. At the moment you can see I have not put in any logic for this. I have not provided any logic. We will implement that later on. But right now, if I run this, let us see how this looks like. So it came back with an error Search snippet command is not found, of course, so we need to create this search snippet command for now. So let me go back to my view model. It is complaining. It's our start page, so I can create it as a relay command. So let's call it private async task search snippets. Is that what I gave it? Search snippets, yes. And it is going to take in a string which is going to be a search query. Of course, we are not doing anything right now with this, so let's execute for the time being. So here you go. We have got this search box, we have got the search icon, we have got the clear icon. If I click on this search command, it is going to pass in the parameters. I can even show you if I just put in a breakpoint over here, and if I just type in something, say tube, and click on search, you can see it came into this, and the search query which is being passed is tube. Of course, I do not have any logic written right now to filter this. One thing I would like to show you, I'm not sure if you can focus or see it in the video, there is some outline which is coming around the text entry. So we also need to remove this. Luckily for us, we can do that in using the handlers. So I'm going to just bring in the code. I will go to my code behind for my start page. If you want to do this across the application, you can do it in your MAUI program, but in my particular case, I am going to do this over here. So after my initialize components, I'm just going to say on my entry handler, I'm going to append a new mapping. I'm just going to call it borderless entry, and here I'm saying if the platform is iOS, then set the handler platform view dot border style equals to UI text box border style dot none. So I do not want to provide a border for it. Now if I run this, you will notice that this border will disappear. If you want to provide any further customizations, you can do that. Similarly for Android, if you want to have any customizations to this text entry, let's say you want to remove the bottom line in the text entry, you can do that. So now you can see it has disappeared, and this is looking like a flat area for us. So we are good over here. Let me close this. So far this functionality is working. So let's actually go ahead and implement the logic for this search snippets. So for the search snippets, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to implement any of this search functionality over here in this search snippets. In fact, I'm going to piggyback on this set snippets function that we have created, because I want to have one centralized place where I can apply some, let's say, sorting capability, filtering capability, even search by text. When we implement searching or filtering by SDK or the filter functionality, I want to have everything done over here. So with this in mind, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create a private search text variable, which is going to be empty by default. And while I am at it, just to keep it consistent, what I am going to do, I'm also going to bring in a couple of other private variables, the selected SDK and the selected category. So what do we mean by the selected category? Let me just run the current application just to show you. So here we have the selected SDKs. If I click on MAUI, it filters only on MAUI. If I click on Xamarin, only filters on Xamarin. If I click on all, it filters on all. Similarly for the sorting, I'm using this. For this sorting, I'm relying on the sort order which we have specified in the setting service. But for this filters, where ideally we should be displaying the list of all the different categories which are available, just to show you, if I go in this essential UI kit, these are all the different categories that this snippet belongs to. It belongs to about category, articles category, error category, products category, walkthroughs category, launch screen category, and so on. If I take something else, let's say this WhatsApp UI clone, it belongs to these 4 categories. So what this filter will do is it's going to list down all these categories that we have. Clicking on any of that category should only filter the results for that particular category. This is something we are not going to implement, but I will show you at least the backend, and implementing this front end, I leave it to you as an exercise, but we will be implementing this sorting functionality, and the same concept will apply over there as well. So for that, just itself now I'm bringing in all these variables and I'll start building the logic, and I will leave it for you to implement at least the category selection, the search and the SDK that we will implement in, I believe, the next video. Okay, so let's go back. What are we going to do in the search query? So whenever someone clicks on search snippet, what we want to do, I want to set my search text to, so search text, the variable that I defined at the top, to empty, and this is to start with. Or rather, let me do something, let me do it in a different way. Let me create a common, let's see, private void clear filters. Okay, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to set my search text to empty, and my say selected SDKs to empty, and my selected categories to empty. So every time when I click on this, I'll tell you why I am doing this. So I'm going to say clear the filters first. Once I have cleared the filters, I'm going to say my search text is equal to my search query, and of course someone can pass in some leading or ending spaces, so I need to trim this. And once I have this, all I need to do is just call my set snippets method, which I have already written. Now obviously at this point in time we do not have any logic to filter on the inside our set snippets, so that is what we are going to filter on. So the way we are going to check is, once we have received this information, once we have the list of the snippets, before we do anything else, I'm going to check for my search query. Okay, or check for search query. So I can say if my search text is not null or empty, which is my search text, if it is not null or empty, I need to filter it further. So if it was empty, I do not need to do anything. This result is more than enough. But if it is empty, I need to filter this. So on this, the snippets, this is how I can filter it. Let me just copy paste the code quickly. So I can say, I'll try to bring it into different lines. So I will say dot where x and x dot title contains. Let me bring it into different lines. Yeah, here you go. So what I can do is I can say filter on these snippets which I have already ordered, and if the title or the description contains this search text and I am ignoring the case, whether it is uppercase, lowercase, I'm ignoring that. Irrespective of that, I'm checking if either the text or the description has this search text, then filter on this and display the result in the output. So let me run this for now and show it to you. There is a spelling mistake. Check for search query. Let this come up. For example, if I go ahead and search for tube, if I search for tube, only one comes up. This is the tube player because there is a tube in the video. What if I type in something like video or player? Let's put in the player. If I go and type player and search, so again only one comes up. What if I type in video, search? There is nothing for the video. Let's search for user interface, UI. So there are a lot of them which have UI in it somewhere. So Maui, of course, this has a UI, this has UI, This has UI in the tech, in the description, this has UI. This one does not have UI in the title, but in the description, it will somewhere have UI in between. Or if I simply go ahead and search for, say, to do, search, so we get to-do.me, we get to-do app, only 2 of them. So this is working for now. This is amazing. Now, while we are at this, what I will do, I will also go ahead and I will say check for additional things. So check for SDKs. This is something that we will use later. So check for the selected SDK, and I can put in the similar logic over here. I can simply say if my selected SDK, this is what I defined over here, which is all empty at the moment. If it is not empty, as in if someone clicked on Maui or if someone clicked on all and so on, if it is not empty, then the snippets dot the snippet dot where x dot built with equals to selected SDK. So I'm just filtering for those SDKs only. So if I go back to this application, so you can see this is how it is filtering. I will show you how this is done in a little while as well. And similarly, we will check for categories. Check for categories. So the same concept I will do. Let me just copy paste the code over here, and I will check and I will say, let's bring this over here. This is enough. So if the selected category has been provided, it is not empty, then I'm just filtering it where the category contains the selected category. So if you go back to the models, if I go back to my models, each of the snippet has a list of categories, and the category has, or the app category has a category inside. So what I'm doing is I'm just going and checking if the selected category is present in any of the categories within this snippet. So this is how we do this. Now, one of the other things I will notice, just to show you, if I run this application, so if I type in, for example, tube, and if I click on this search icon, it filters it. What if I type UI and I just press enter? If I press enter, or if you bring in the keyboard in your actual device and you press on the search icon or the submit icon, nothing happens. Only on this click we are doing this. So we need to fix that as well. So to handle that, what I can do, I can go back to my entry and I just need to enter, or I need to provide the completed event. So I can provide this on completion, what needs to be done. Let's go to this definition, and here I just need to say something very simple. I need to say I have already access to my view model. So view model dot search snippet command dot execute, of course, and what I need to provide it with the text search query dot text. So I just need to provide this over here. And since I only have one line of code over here, maybe I can make it simpler by removing the parenthesis. So on completion, now it will execute the same code, which is the search snippets command, passing in this value, which earlier we were doing it from the front end using this gesture recognizer over here. So we were calling it using this image. So now if I type in tube, and I'm going to keep this mouse away, and now if I type enter, press enter, it filters for me. If I go ahead and type in UI, press enter, it filters in everywhere where we have got UI. Now if I press on this cross icon, nothing happens. That is also something that we need to fix. Now to do this, what I can do, I can bring in again a gesture recognizer for this image. So this is the image that we added. So I can bring in a gesture recognizer, and I'm not binding it to any backend command. All I'm doing is I'm using the tabbed event, which is local in this code behind. So I can go to the logic, and this is a simple function. And in this function, what I can do, I can let me show you something first. So I can say view model dot with search snippet command dot execute, the same thing that we did before, but this time without any parameter. So let me actually go ahead and run this and show you how this looks, but this will also have one problem which we will solve. So let this execute. So let me go ahead, type in tube. Either I can press on this icon or I can press enter. So it only brought in one item. And now if I click on this clear icon, it brings in everything for me. But you see, it did not clear this text over here. Ideally, it should have cleared this text. So for this, that is the reason I did not use directly the command. I could have done the same thing going back to this start.xaml. Whatever I had done over here, I could have done exactly the same, passing in an empty text as the command parameter, and that would have worked for me just fine. But I want to clear this as well. That is the reason I am going through this extra hoop. So I will just set it to empty, and now I will execute this manually. With that, I do not have the option to execute this manually. So now if I go ahead, if I search for something, tube, and now if I clear, it clears the text and then it clears it for us as well. If I search for user interface, search, I'm somewhere, if I clear, it clears this and it brings in all the items for me. So this is it for this part. This is where we have implemented the search functionality. In the next video, we will talk about implementing the other functionalities, the filter and the sorting. So let's go back over here. So we will be focusing on this part, and this part. So this is what we will be focusing on. For this, we have already put everything in place. The backend is already implemented in our start page view model. So until next time, see you everyone.